GMC has been on a roll lately with its AT4 sub-brand of off-road focused vehicles. You can now find that badge attached all the way from small vehicles like the Terrain up to big ones like this, the 2025 GMC Yukon. Now this is a family-focused full-size SUV, but a number of years ago GMC decided to do an off-road variant called the AT4. There was just one problem with it. While it was fairly luxurious, you could still get a little bit more luxury in the Denali Ultimate trim. Well, now GMC has decided to combine the best of both worlds with this new trim level, the AT4 Ultimate. Now you get all of the great off-roadness of the AT4 mixed with all of the luxury of the Denali Ultimate. Is this now the ultimate GMC Yukon? Let's find out. So let's start with a walk around of the 2025 GMC Yukon. This thing got a slight facelift for the 2025 model year. You have kind of these chiseled, really cool looking headlights here, the bold, aggressive grille. I like the rugged, luxurious simplicity of the Yukon compared to something like the Tahoe and the Suburban, which are a little bit more sporty, a little bit more aggressive. I think this is just the perfect look. It's not as luxurious as the Escalade, but it is still really nice. Now, this is a new trim level called the AT4 Ultimate. So you used to be able to get the off-road focused AT4. It still has the red tow hooks here for off-road purposes if you need to be recovered. You have a really nice amount of ground clearance here. And we actually have a smaller 20-inch wheel with all-terrain tires. We've got Goodyear Wrangler all-terrains here with the 20-inch 5-spoke wheel. It's a nice looking wheel, looks pretty darn aggressive. It is very different than the available 24-inch 8-spoke machine wheels that you can get on the Denali Ultimate. We do also have adaptive air ride suspension that is very comfortable on this car. It can actually raise the vehicle by up to 2 inches, which is good for off-roading. We've got our AT4 badge right here letting us know that we have the off-road trim level. And then here at the back, kind of a simple look, you know, not the craziest taillight available on a big full-size GM SUV, just the big GMC logo in red, AT4. It doesn't actually say AT4 Ultimate anywhere on the outside. It just says AT4. And then we have the nice quad exhaust here at the bottom. Now, as we step inside the Yukon AT4 Ultimate, you'll see that we have a power retractable running board. That's interesting for an off-road trim. Typically, they tend to reserve these for kind of the luxury trims. This might, deploy and damage itself on a rock, but it's not that much of a serious off-road vehicle, so we do still have that. We've got our AT4 Ultimate kick plate right here. We also have our beautiful 16-way heated and ventilated massage seats. Now, this is the only color pathway you're able to get on the AT4 Ultimate. There's not like a second option that you can get, but it does have this really nice red pattern here in the middle. I'm also liking this white piping right here, as well as this kind of cool topography here on the bolsters. We also have the nice AT4 Ultimate logo, as well as our Bose speakers in our headrests. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We also have our big speakers down here. Really nice massage on these, which is nice to enjoy while you're on a long road trip with the family to keep you relaxed. We've got this big center console, again, with more of that kind of topography finish with the AT4 Ultimate badge. We'll talk about that a little bit later as we start up and see our kind of small-ish digital gauge cluster here. It's kind of like tapered because of how this leather kind of wraps around. It's a little smaller than I've seen in some of the other GM full-size vehicles, but it is really nice. You can change what's here. We have our standard gauges. You can have your Google Map, which is built in. You can also have your Apple Map if you're running Apple CarPlay, which is really nice. You can have your lane distance, for your adaptive cruise control. You have a night vision camera, which I don't think it's going to look that good during the day, but that is an optional extra here on the Yukon, but it is quite cool. That is something that you used to only be able to get in a Mercedes S-Class, and now you can get it in a Yukon. And then this is kind of your more condensed gauge cluster that has more information here. all very easy to change on this nice heated leather steering wheel. GM got rid of the pull, push, dumb button thing. It just has the same shifter that you'll find in the Tahoe, Suburban, and all of those other full-size vehicles, which is really nice. I like that it's up here, easy to access, nice 360 camera and other camera angles when you put it into reverse. This touchscreen is pretty great. It's a 16.8-inch vertically oriented display. I've been spending a little bit of time with it. I don't know if I prefer it to the kind of wide screen that you get in the Chevy Tahoe. I kind of prefer it laid out this way just a little bit, but that might come down to your personal preference. There's nothing necessarily wrong with how this is laid out. We do have the nice volume knob here, and then a lot of our climate controls down here. You can either activate them on the touchscreen, or you do get these little nicely kind of leather-esque buttons down here that go up and down in some cases, so you do have quick access to your fan speed and all of that good stuff. You also have the Google Assistant built in here, so you can say, "Hey Google, hey Google." We might actually have that turned off here, but you can just go ahead and click the button if you don't have that active. But you can usually just say, "Hey Google," to activate things. We do have tons of storage in here, which I got to talk about. We have this sliding drawer. We've got a wireless charger down there, USB ports as well, cup holders here with this kind of sliding bit. We've got a little bit of storage up here above the infotainment, which is kind of nice. And then we have a ton of storage in here in this armrest, which is quite nice. But then you also get this little button up here. You can slide the armrest back, which is kind of nice. And now we've got kind of this huge storage area here. And then you also have this secret sliding bin, so you can put stuff in here, close that, and then if you slide this here, would-be thieves are not going to be able to find that, which is pretty nice. I already mentioned the Obsidian Rush interior, which is the name of this interior, but then it also comes with this full grain wood, which is just a really nice, really dark, tasteful look here on the Yukon AT4 Ultimate. And then I did mention the Bose speaker system. It is 22 speakers, performance series here on this AT4 Ultimate trim. It's good. I don't necessarily think it's the best that GM offers. Obviously, the Cadillac has this amazing AKG system, but this Bose unit is pretty good. Now, the back seat is one of the main reasons why you might opt for a big vehicle like this Yukon or its sister car, the Chevy Tahoe. We do have captain's chairs here on this AT4 Ultimate. These are heated. We've got the nice armrests. You can slide and recline them down here. Now, if you get the Denali Ultimate trim, which is similar to this but has an available executive rear seat package, it's about $4,000. It replaces these with power operated seats that are more similar to the front ones. You get ventilation and massage on those, but sadly that is not available here on this AT4 Ultimate. You have to get the Denali Ultimate for that one. Now, because we have that sliding console, you can see the cup holders actually move really nicely far back, giving your kids much easier access to their drinks. We do get our own touchscreen down here, which we can use to control our heated seats and temperature. We also have HDMI ports and USB-Cs to charge here. And then those HDMIs connect to this screen, so if you want to bring a Fire Stick with you, but you do also have YouTube and Hulu built into the screen to keep your kids entertained on long road trips. Now let's check out the third row, where the Yukon is very, very roomy. We have easy access one of two ways. We can either double pull on this, or we can just click this button right here to drop down and fold this rear seat, but then we do have to still pull it one more time to tip it up this way, allowing us to get into the third row, which is pretty nicely sized. I'm going to go ahead and put this up to give you a full demonstration. Now this can come back a little bit further, but I do have a decent amount of legroom. If you want more legroom, though, you are going to have to opt for the Yukon XL, which is going to give you more space back here. Honestly, I think if you are going for a vehicle like this, you probably want the XL unless you have limited garage or driveway space or whatever. The XL just gives you a lot more room here in the third row and a lot more room behind the third row, which we are about to see. Now the legroom in that back seat is 34.9 inches in the third row, but if you get that XL trim, it's going to go to 36.7 inches. So something to consider if you're planning to use that third row very frequently. And the cargo volume is a lot bigger on the XL. As you can see with the third row up, we still have a decent amount of trunk space, but it's not massive. I could definitely see you filling that up quickly. It's 25.5 cubic feet of space. You get 41.5 if you get the XL, so noticeably bigger. And we can fold down these seats relatively easy here because we have one of the top trim levels. These are just power operated seats. They move quicker than almost any other SUV that I've tested. Although, as you can see, it sometimes bumps in to the second row seats. I'm actually happy that it did that. That is something that almost never happens if you get the XL because it has a longer wheelbase and it has more space between the seats. So that's something that can sometimes happen here on this regular trim Yukon. But then if I go ahead and drop all the seats down, now you'll see I can get it fully flat. With just the third row down, you'll have 72.6 cubic feet of space, which is frankly massive. But the XL has 93.8, so a lot bigger than that. You get 122.9 cubic feet total in this regular Yukon model. The XL has 144.7, so it's one of the biggest vehicles you can buy. There aren't very many SUVs, minivans, what have you, that have more space than that. So the Yukon is still one of, if not the space leaders. There are one or two vehicles that have a little bit more, but I really like the idea of getting the XL to just get the max amount of space. All right, let's get underway in the updated 2025 GMC Yukon. We're going to start by talking about the engines. You get a 5.3 liter V8 engine as standard, pretty much carryover from last year. 355 horsepower, 383 pound-feet of torque. That's available in the lower trim levels like the Elevation and the AT4. So not what we're driving here. It's a fine engine. I don't think it's that powerful, but it is nice for those people out there who always complain on the internet that V8s are going away. It is nice that GM still offers one as standard, as so many automakers are now switching to turbocharged V6 engines. But the engine that I think you're going to want is this one, the 6.2 liter V8. Now this thing is a lot more of a beast, 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. We have it in sport mode now so that we can get the best 0 to 60 time. So I'm going to go ahead and brake torque it for you to show you what that's like. It'll let you rev out a little bit and then go. No drama off the line. All right, now that was 6.35 seconds. That's the quickest that I've run. I've done it a couple times now. 6.5 was the slowest. 6.35 is not too bad. It's definitely not fast, even for a large vehicle like this. I just drove the Nissan Armada, I believe was a little quicker than that with its twin-turbo V6. So even though this is a V8, it does seem that maybe there is some replacement for displacement. I think a EcoBoost Ford Expedition is also maybe a little bit quicker than that, but this is not slow by any means with 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. The 10-speed automatic in this is phenomenal. Although it's not the most powerful thing in its class anymore, this is just such a nice setup. It sounds good. It makes a nice rumble. The 10-speed might be the best calibrated of any transmission in this business. GM is still really the benchmark when it comes to engine and transmission calibration, at least on their full-size trucks and SUVs like this and its corporate cousin, the Chevy Tahoe. Now, I would be remiss if I did not mention some of the current issues that are going on with this engine, the 6.2 liter V8. I believe it's the L87. Now, those issues are, for now, limited to the 2019 to 2024 model years. So if you're buying a 2025 one, you should be in the clear. It is not affected by this recall, this investigation that the NHTSA is doing. These engines have literally grenaded themselves. So I do admit that it is a very serious issue, but I want to let you know that the 2025 model is not affected. I typically don't mention ongoing recalls and stuff like that in my reviews, but this one is pretty major, affecting almost 900,000 vehicles. So I had to mention it. I knew people probably would bring it up in the comments. Now this engine is optional on that AT4 trim. All of the upper trim levels like the Denali Ultimate, and the AT4 Ultimate all get it as standard. The fuel economy isn't that much worse than the 5.3 liter V8, believe it or not. 15 mpg in the city, 20 on the highway, 17 combined. That's identical to the 5.3. If you're getting rear wheel drive, with 4-wheel drive, it is going to drop significantly. 14 mpg in the city, 18 on the highway, 16 combined. That's pretty bad. And if you are worried about fuel economy or that engine issue that I mentioned, there is an optional engine, a 3-liter inline 6 Duramax that is a turbocharged diesel engine. It got a power update a few years ago. It now makes 305 horsepower and 495 pound-feet of torque, so more torque than even this V8 engine has. It's still a little slower, so you lose a little bit on acceleration, but what you lose there, you gain in fuel economy. 21 mpg in the city, 26 on the highway, 23 combined with rear-wheel drive. Those numbers drop to 20 in the city, 26 on the highway, and 22 combined, which is still much better than what you're going to get in this V8 model. You'll probably have to check local diesel prices around you to see whether or not the additional cost is going to be worth the fuel savings. But if you drive a lot, it is an engine that I really, really like. It is super smooth. They've quieted it, so it's not a loud diesel. And I've driven it in a number of applications. I've driven it in the Chevy Suburban recently, and I have driven the updated power version in the GMC Sierra, and even without the extra power, I still really liked that diesel engine. So if you are diesel curious, I say you give it a try. Now, in terms of how this facelifted Yukon drives, it's pretty much the same as last year's model. This is not a full overhaul of this platform. I would say that GM has just really kind of perfected this big full-size SUV. Even as I'm about to go through corners, I have it in sport mode. It doesn't do a whole lot, but this car does feel a lot more athletic than old full-size SUVs. There's definitely some body roll. The steering is not the most precise, but for this segment, I think GM has just tuned this extremely well. The steering is well calibrated, the throttle is well calibrated, the suspension is very comfortable. I think that the off-road nature of this AT4 Ultimate trim has not ruined the on-road comfort. I'm not really detecting a whole lot more road noise from the tires. The suspension is super cushy. You get a little bit more sidewall in the tires than you would in one of the Denali trims. So it is just the best of both worlds. You can take this camping with the family. You can go on dirt and not have to worry about scraping your big 24-inch wheels, but yet you get all of the comfort. You get the massage seats. You get hands-free Super Cruise, which I don't need to go into too much detail because this is the best hands-free driving system on the market right now. It can do lane changes automatically. It can really make your next family road trip that much easier on you when you're driving. It just really takes the stress off of having to keep this car in its lanes. This is a very big vehicle, so you'll feel more relaxed when you get to your destination. And parents, I don't need to tell you that when you're road tripping with a bunch of kids in the back, you want all the relaxation that you can get. Honestly, I think this is such a compelling package. It is more expensive than a Chevy Tahoe, although if you are looking at something like a Cadillac Escalade, you're going to be saving money with the Yukon. It is kind of this interesting middle ground, especially with this new AT4 Ultimate trim. You are missing out on one or two features that are available in the Denali Ultimate and the Cadillac Escalade, namely the rear seat if you want your kids to have massage and ventilation and stuff like that. If you really, really want to spoil them, you are going to have to spend that little bit extra, but this is a very nice package. So to go over the pricing, let's pull over and chat about where this stacks up. That's going to wrap up our time with the 2025 GMC Yukon. Pricing for this vehicle is not inexpensive. These full-size SUVs have gotten quite pricey in recent years. So the base elevation trim with two-wheel drive, that's going to be just under $72,000. That's with the 5.3-liter engine. The Duramax diesel engine is an optional extra. $76,000 will get you that, although as we'll see on the upper trim levels, the diesel actually becomes cheaper. Now you have the AT4, which is four-wheel drive only, gives you a little little bit more of an off-roady appearance for $78,600. The 6.2 liter engine costs 81 grand in that, or if you want the diesel, it is a whopping 88 grand. Instead of that, I would probably just go for the Denali trim. It's a little bit more luxurious, very similar to the AT4 in terms of features. $82,000 with the V8, or if you want the Duramax, a little over 86 grand. Now we get to the AT4 Ultimate that we've been driving here. $98,795 is going to get you the diesel engine. That's actually the base powertrain on the AT4 Ultimate. The V8 actually costs a little bit more, $100,295. Honestly, I prefer the diesel, so if it's cheaper, just go ahead and take that diesel engine. I think it's a great option, although I could see why you would want to opt for the more powerful V8. Then there's the Denali Ultimate, the most expensive of the bunch, $104,700 with the diesel, $106,000 if you want the V8, and then it can go up from there if you add that executive rear seat package. Now, the only reason I would consider the Denali Ultimate over this trim is, one, if you just don't like the off-road look offered by the AT4 Ultimate. I happen to think this is maybe the best looking of the Yukons, although the Denali is quite a nice vibe as well. But then also that rear seat package gets you just luxury that you would expect to find in a Cadillac Escalade, you know, with the power seats and the massaging and all of that. Do you necessarily need that? No, you're already spending $100,000 on this, so this is not an inexpensive vehicle. But as I mentioned, this is a really nice middle ground between the Tahoe and the Escalade. Now, the Tahoe can get quite luxurious as well. The high country of that is really nice. The Escalade is really, really nice for the 2025 model year. So you have to maybe go to the dealership and drive all three to decide whether or not you want to save some money and get the Suburban or the Tahoe, or you want to spend more money and get the Escalade, or if you want to go somewhere in the middle with this Yukon. Let me know in the comments which of those three you would buy, or would you buy from a different brand? Would you buy the Jeep Wagoneer or Grand Wagoneer, or would you get a Ford Expedition, or maybe an out-of-the-box option like the new Nissan Armada or the Toyota Sequoia? As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave the comment answering that question, and be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. I'll see you next time.